건강 또 서서서.
콘솔기 인지기 뎁 자기.
오야.
장랭마게 장랭마 상하면은 저샤고치 요래. 이네 인지기 내면은.
대배야 보시 대저 대우는 한 고조배 대전기는 야보는 저 야보자. 대부 닦아서 제대 야보 있어요. 근데 시자대 얘가 야보 시죠. 그래서 대로 놓야 가원도. 되게 핑크를 놓 타야 돼. 배 놓고는 뭐네. 나한테 레지 차마선 거. 나도 차선 때 강강 뭐 말이다.
dorje janje nelo narodang marabala juje gambo ba desa yeza ganje gamaba jeje jonje jebanzananda Andreda zarza parade robazo
Zalanda
ya jelanga nyembe nyame rogo da boga jula soane soga jula manam Jubanzeno namdara jelo shelo gomje gamba zombaye zeno gala jaye me bada zende de da jube gomje la nika jemba me barazen jelo Nagam jengo razombaye menga dergo jebela mala junda zorwan begom jela ngajme me jewazen jelo yeme gom Kunzang Dojje Zarda Zo Minju Jinje Borana Duzum Sanje Kunje Ngwani Ransi Juga Ngazon Donze Be Lama Namla Guzanza Sanje Kunge Lama La Gozon Kuba Jimbu Zorande Domine Lo Rangon Juba Center Drapa Nyambara Zenji Lo Tene Nabalinje Tsamala Nyingong Dele Hyata Te Dalinda Samba Sanjun Chodo Tokji ne Deni Trosemda Dimbagonis in Barishos.
Good afternoon, all my Dharma friends. Please listen with the motivation of bodhicitta and an attitude of relaxed enjoyment.
Oderi, da de Tumta Chimbo Ye, da Remiki Chin Tamji la, Soran de Baganani Shoku Yudu. Re teninga soge saja ke lama naba tamji la ngiba donja lama tamji temba ke sokhin parni saja ba song te tinani te hibari da hyu sambari tene da saja ba se ya de nga so bug pe za chimbo zari saji dongju se ya de da de juba de onsa de la na saja de nyamni no zo de lamre se ko lamre juba lamar so an de lamre de juba ne da hyuba na gi lame so bra ba ni ma ju sari Borabani Maju and the Lamdeg Jubate. Then Donji Chani Nyamni Sea, so the Karesina Sajake Tada Yadan Jeps up person. Jedorje, the Sandorjin Jombon Drzitang, Perbati, so Tesums in the Nyamni second. Then Ranjik Nyamni Sinki Mambo, the Sajanam Japa Gumba Chatsangara, Rimando, Radok in Jixi, the Nyamni Sinki, Kamso, the Mambori. Mazo San Radok in Jixi, Namjabom, Haleba Mambo Sonko, Sarin Jixi Nyamni Sinki. So Yada Jeps up person. D Nangden is Perbate. Kong ngone trane ke nyingma le la pa che ke phpa ka ka de sa ja la hu zu da zu ju pa de ko song ti le ti na ye wa sa ri de hu de da sa ja la phpa ka de na phpa de chot ge de ra nyong nyong sa ri kham so ngwe la gong pa chia kha so ri ma ze sa ji chung a tam ge de chot ta ma do mang chi hyu de ge nyam ne se ya de yong bon der ji sa der de nyam ne ha jang se ken do de to lan khap ju ma de se ken do 갑주마데 나로건 갑주만 오다 된 갑주데 조냐니 세컨도 대행사리 다냐니 세제 조다 오데 사자가 냐니 여단나니 조온다 오데 소온다 인사리 데니 디토데 다 사자데게 조 콘나바단 케바페 mambo halebake 케바 mambo 송건도 사자저지 되라 고 냠베양 신절 없습니다 데인데 데니 사자게 다다 가리조글리로 조다 냠니 돌 두본다고 돌아 철두갈이 희제데 힘바 입저 존나 다고 사지 건강님 볼라 잠배양게 태가르도 송갈리를 든르게 송근도 왔다데 희니 값서 다다 가주상게 다다레 다보 취겨져 희해다 대는 저완다윈도 희도 근도 된다온다온다도 희에근도 희데 든릉에 현요 대조 대행사리 다 냠닌다고 조어디 사자게 대행사리 대니 사지 동규대 가서 다다다 마치 벽게달 때 뺑아서 기침본사리 대니 북라 사자게 동규대 기침본이 전 참마 그 송칸도 파마 담지가 된로 만보 송거리 사지 동규대 배부 자침본이 사리 대니 대 닝만한 저와 사리 효침보 사자데 바 닝만한 저와 효침보 사리 사자데 Then Yonani Tachi Jobjin Zone, Tagalog Gapon, Niamag, Yonji took some Zoli, Yamni second door, Masabjan second door, Kona Tachi, Jobji Zoli, Sobjan Sage, or Sari, the pay Haleba Yonti, Zachimbo Sari, Ten Sari, Tasaja Sayade, Tendruke, Tenichin Abatamjika Kalekale, Himjo Sina, Sajalama Tamjik, Juban Rawata, Yamnin Rawata.
So we looked at the first of two stanzas of this prayer that was a supplication to the gurus of the Sakya tradition. And as mentioned this morning, the Sakya tradition is especially beloved by Tibetans for two reasons. One is that they have maintained this unbroken lineage through their genetic descent, so through the family. They've actually managed to keep their lineage alive in the family. And the other, of course, is that they hold the unique and special transmission of the most essential teachings of the Mahasiddha Virupa, which are called the path and result. As for the yidams that they practice, they're known particularly for the practice of 3 yidams, Vajra, who is the principal yidam associated with path and result, Vajracharya, and they hold a lineage, an oral, unbroken oral lineage of Vajracharya that goes back to Guru Rinpoche himself. So it's said by many that actually the Sakya lineage of Vajracharya is even greater than the Nyingma traditions of Vajracharya. And then the third is a form of Vajrapani called subduer of spirits, or conqueror of spirits. And those 3 are said to be their main practices, but they also do many other things that have been brought into their tradition. For example, many Sakyapa practitioners practice the Yamantaka Vajrabhairava form, which the particular one that comes from the great Ra Lotsawa, Ra the translator. And of course, they also practice a form of Kechari or Vajrayogini that comes from Naropa via Pandapa. And so they have all of these different practices, and they're known for that. Especially and primarily, they are known as for their excellent scholarship and their excellent erudition with regard to the Buddha's teachings. I suppose if you want to summarize the teachings of a lineage the way we can summarize the Kagyu approach as the 4 dharmas of Gampopa, the equivalent for the Sakya tradition would be what is called parting from the 4 clingings, which was a teaching given by the Bodhisattva Manjushri directly to the great Sakya Pandita. Their textual scholarship is based on the study and commentaries on what are called the 18 treatises, just as in the Gelug tradition it would be the 5 great treatises, in the Nyingma tradition the 13 treatises, and so forth.
Teni tangara nge dong tong tong ri kyo ngara tsav lama de lama sanju dorje kong sajari saja ke ko juba de hal lepa ke kong ke lamde juba de jeba de wan long tre sam je de kun de drop tap kun de hyune kap jin ning ru lam be mi shi ma tha ba de yulen de ba de kap jin ning le sa kong ne song jo li di to de ne chin ze chu jo lo de ne ma song zong sa le song zong sa ni Hierani ko yong so zoba de nyamne se cha de ni ko lama dongja lama de ngoma dongja lama de ganghyarong ba je thosan ten de kong ge yedam je dor je ni ba ya yo de ka so ni ba hyolong ka wa hyogin ha de je dor je hyarze sa ka lo ju cha chang ma de den ro ri kong ge den ro song ko re na kong ge ga re song de ri se na lama tham je da yedam tham je gong ba je ri din do yana soso lenda tea karen ha ko samari so karesena sorwa namjor wan solo Topgyal sen Barwapa la ngudong gor pe me tsar song song pe man jong ne ko ngudong de pe man jong ne ke tsar song kong ge nyamlin de sonrap lamdrela se jang nyamnyong de zoba chimbo le je song song ko 대도 조바침보다 제송세야 돼 검사 강형한 뭐 결선 컨트롤하게 송소 대라 때는 트롤하게는 공 타르토 상디토니 공 제송소 그 님의 조바침보다 때공 전주 차창마 다 효래라 강형은 뭐 저게 다 효래라 효긴 같은 다 효래 강형은 뭐 트롤하게 거래 트롤하게 제서 때는 컨트롤하게 송도 강형은 뭐 저게 때는 공 공남이 트롤냠 때 대지는 해네 되니 공게 zon me ke temba ti chong ki chora hen sang chok dor jen son kong nga son den rin je ne ta ta sama de tsen den ni den ri se ole ri den ri song jo li ko
I'll tell you a short story about one of my teachers, who was the Mahasiddha Gyamtso Dorje, of whom I've spoken before. He was one of the two principal disciples of the great Khenpo Gongsa. Now, Gyamtso Dorje was originally a monk and scholar of the Sakya tradition. And he received extraordinarily fine lineages and transmissions of the great Sakya teachings, such as the Path and Result, the collection of all tantras, and the collection of all sadhanas. And he practiced. He not only studied the Sakya tradition, but he practiced it to the point where, while he was performing the mantra approach of the principal Sakya Yidam Hevajra, he had a vision of Hevajra and his entourage, seeing them face to face. But he said that, in speaking of his training and background and studies and practice, that although all gurus are the same in their realization and all yidams are the same in their wisdom and blessing, you never know what your own karma or karmic connection is going to be. So about himself, he said, I prayed to Virupa, but received blessings from Guru Padmasambhava. So he's, as a Sakya practitioner, he spent many years praying to the Mahasiddha Virupa, whose teachings form the basis of the Sakya tradition. But nevertheless, because he had a karmic connection with Guru Rinpoche, when he received blessings, they came from the Guru, appeared to him as Guru Rinpoche. And similarly, he said, I studied and practiced the Path and Result exhaustively, and yet gained realization through Dzogchen. So his ultimate guru was Khenpo Gongsa. And after his many years of study, when he met Khenpo Gongsa, and they were together at Somong Dutsi Til monastery, Trungpa Rinpoche's monastery, on the day that he finished his explanation of Longchenpa's Treasury of the Dhammadhatu, Khenpo Gongsa achieved perfect awakening. He destroyed bewilderment, or all bewilderment. And on that same day, having been told by Khenpo Gongsa, you shall transmit the essence of my teachings, then Gyamtso Dorje destroyed bewilderment too, which meant that he achieved his final realization through the transmission of the teaching of Dzogchen by Khenpo Gongsa, the Treasury of the Dhammadhatu. So the meaning of all of these different lineages is the same, but you never know which one you have a karmic connection with, and therefore which one is going to actually put you over the edge, so to speak.
Oh, then Samba Konga Tempe Gyamtso, Tangawan Leton Jayan Chinze, one and Jambar Tins and Gawan Kieto, so Konga Nima Namda Soran de Sita, Tina, the Konga Tanja and Chinze, Chinze, Konkora Zabal Lama, so Jerry, in Chinkong Yite, Chinkong Chusande, Chinze, Yangonda, then in Chojaling, but there's sometimes Yon Ragalama, then the Tamjila, then Konga Soran de Yes on the water.
So the next stanza lists a number of names that are names of great Sakya Lamas. One of them that we know well is Jamyang Chense Wangpo, who was certainly one of Terchen Barway Dorje's principal root gurus, because while he was attending and studying with Chokche Lingpa, he was often around Jamyang Chense Wangpo. We can't say, therefore, that all of these are names of his root gurus who were Sakyabhas, but he does give a number of names, some which we identify, some which we don't, and then says, I pray to you. So you'll see in that stanza, it's a list of, so that completes his 2 stanzas of supplication to past and present gurus of the Sakya tradition.
Tijini ta gelopari ta gelopa ta ngazo kadam sanni zu juba de kadam juba se ya de ta gelopa tsongka pa ni ma ju de jamyang tembang ab da tsongka pa an jambyang ngu so ni kedap jarchap khong loma je so se ta je chu je jamsi jawan tamben si sendong yiba tsala soran de so ta de jawa tsongka pa de na 다 할레바케가 고 제사데데 감 암도리 말 카마리 암도리 암도 때니 냠니 롭장세사 위나서 라마탄비 때네 타르 마 아마로 또라 펩토마 부니 아 로니 마 때니 감소 암도도 소마 탑들이 위레 요네 때니 공케도 용수 조바 자 저 냠니다 마리 롭장다 냠니 타르삼바시네 든르케 시오레 때니 다데 공나바 탐지 냠니 조 라워데 세야데 단 개바이 온다리 히마고와리 콩 라워데 데니 케점 니디지 제베 쳔보 메와린 잠베야 응으스 샤르제선니 데네 다 던르케게다 종가바 서야데 베케라 쳔보리데 자르삽제 단 케접제 다고 ngasoke 제yap세 심존 소란데사 데레 데네 콩라베고나 보가 다다 사나 도르제다 진 마리 진짜 뉴스음제다니 사나 도르제다 진레zen 양배양 숨가게 오제게 들바데 제 종가바에 송어들이 되네 다 콩나바 담지 그 냠니 조세야 되네 냠니 나니 냠니 조세야 돼 사원데 바인사리 데 조람 콜로뎀 초다 사원데 바다 되네 대나기 그 다다 직지가 고니 샤사 오사리 야담 데데는 콜로데 다 파르티전 콜로 디나니 다 콩나바게 다다 사원데 바데 조람 거 고니 데니 사키 자체와 냠니 세저다 든로 오사리 동거디 조세 거로 든리케게다 다다바다다 보게 템바총 디나니 조다 테바 쳔보게 주 냠니 생기 조나가 조 용단다오다 콘 사리 콘 바게로바 냠니
드네 다다 가서 그 총ken게 잘와데 담지 쳔바나름 파발로 세기여와
다데 송거로와 다 연도 촐르멘 촐
지는 셰파살데 테텐 체게 그송 데 나파쳔보 에레 나파쳔보 테텐로와
나바쳔보 데톤
제타리 자체 니시상아 그 공터 몽포팝도 데 지는 셰파살데 코네 연사레고 So the next stanza is a supplication to gurus of the Gelugpa tradition, which the Gelugpa tradition was based on the Kadampa tradition. So sometimes the Gelugpa are sometimes called the later Kadampa as opposed to the early Kadampa. Don't be confused now with what's called the new Kadampa in the West. That's a split off. But basically, the Gelugpa tradition was a way of using the structure of Atisha's presentation of the path to awakening and including all of Buddhism within it as practical instruction. So therefore, the Gelugpa tradition in its own way includes many, many different teachings. Of course, it was founded in the 15th century by the great Dharma Lord Tsongkhapa. Now, when we call him Tsongkhapa, Tsongkha was where he was born. It's a valley in Amdo, which is about as far east as you can get, and think of it as Tibetan or part of Tibet. Very, very east. They don't even consider it Kham anymore. It's so far. And not coincidentally, the current His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama was also born in Amdo. Tsong, of course, means onion. So Tsongkhapa means the man from Onion Valley. Anyway, Tsongkhapa was one of the three greatest emanations of Manjushri to appear in what we would call the medieval period in Tibet. The other ones were Sakya Pandita, who appeared first, and then the omniscient Longchenpa, who appeared second, and then finally in the 15th century, Lord Tsongkhapa. So Tsongkhapa actually studied very, very widely, and most of his studies were conducted in central Tibet. And Lama said that he became so immersed in study and practice and then teaching in central Tibet that he actually never made it home. He never made it all the way back to Ondo. And although he received the teachings of many different gurus from various lineages, he also received teachings directly from Manjushri himself, of whom he was considered to be a principal emanation. In general, they say that to account for Tsongkhapa's almost unique influence and greatness, that he was the embodiment of Chenrezig, Manjushri, and Vajrapani in one. Now, he had countless disciples, but the best known of them are called the Kidrupje, or the learned and accomplished Lord, and Gyaltsabje, or the Lord Regent. And so when we refer to Tsongkhapa and his two principal disciples, we say the Lord, Father, and two sons. So it refers to Tsongkhapa, Kidrupje, and Gyaltsabje. And their writings, like Tsongkhapa's himself, of course, are still very much studied, primarily in the Gelugpa tradition, but also outside it as well. And then Chichi Gyaltsen Suyin, the Panchen Lama our holy victorious rulers refers to the successive Dalai Lamas. Now, the first Dalai Lama was a disciple, Gendundrup was a disciple of Tsongkhapa, but was not the ruler of Tibet. The fifth Dalai Lama became the ruler of Tibet in 1642. And the fifth Dalai Lama, in addition to founding the Tibetan government, which survives now as the Tibetan government in exile, was also a Terchen and had 25 mind termas that are collected as the 25 under seal. His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama has certainly practiced them and has given many of them the empowerments of them. And so Zunun Shepatsal may be the name of the fifth Dalai Lama. I forget what his Terchen name was, but that may be his name certainly it has Zunun in it, I remember, as a Terchen. The fifth Dalai Lama was considered among the Dalai Lamas, of course, an incarnation of Atisha's great disciple Drumtunpa, and therefore of Chenrezig. But in particular, the fifth Dalai Lama was considered an emanation of King Trisong Detsen, and which was why he was able to gather Tibet under his rule. So that stanza refers to the great founders of the Gelugpa tradition. And the principal emphasis, Lama said, of the Gelugpa tradition is to incorporate all the Buddha's teachings into one system, combining sutra and tantra as appropriate, of Mahayana practice. And so there's a great deal of emphasis on the Mahayana mind training and the stages of the path. In terms of Vajrayana practice, the original Vajrayana emphasis of Tsongkhapa himself among the higher tantras was three. The generation stages of Guhya Samaja, and Yamantaka Vajracharya of the Father Tantra, and of Chakrasamvara of the Mother Tantra. The emphasis in completion stage, and the way that in the Gelugpa tradition, the completion stage is always often presented in the Tantric colleges, is the 5 stages of the Guhya Samaja Tantra. So the fundamental outlook is that of the Guhya Samaja. But they have also incorporated many other teachings, such as the Kalachakra, which is practiced not by most Gelugpas, but certainly by His Holiness the Dalai Lama's personal college. And also, of course, they do the Nyingma practices that come from the 5th Dalai Lama's Terma. Principally in community, they practice his very secret Hayagriva. And the Dalai Lama himself, of course, has performed the great accumulation of the 8 sadhanas or 8 herukas. And, but they, like all the lineages, they also include a lot of teachings that come from different sources. So the original Gelugpa tradition of Tsongkhapa would be the emphasis in Tantra on the Guhya Samaja, Vajrabharava, and Chakrasamvara, and also a great deal of emphasis on the Mahayana mind training and the proper understanding of emptiness according to the view espoused by Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti.
Oh, that's a Gyamtso Chimboris. Da makes our cho summer ma long and a song on the thing, radio sarita, teaching you the ten. Call the Juro Jarbo Tongan, Opa Ranza, Intrambo the town, Go Heka, Setang Yang me on up some jealous or on there. Amni Tamba, Chi Chinkoretan, that they conquer Chimbori Panja, Amni Santi, Ramjur Chude Konga Yiki so, Satam Jamsin, Chotur Kongansi, Konga Namjar Namla so on there. Yang Muju Bebet of the Juji Bebet of the Tonga, the Matoma Tamji, Chamala Passon, Yoko, Yon, the Summit Chalangani, Jada Guja, Tinchin Lama, so say Jaga Lama, the Guja Rana, and Java Yuba Lama, the Chamala, that Mu Don Hyotabu Soran, the Ganja Jaranam from Court Konate, Stateri, Zotateri. They Tamji, Gonja Java said about Sanjak Namtari, Java Sanjak Namtra Kona Yambana, so the Risame Basoran the Lens, Mupe King Sazambo Jachon there, Namgar gave us some Chiso Jo, Salab Dutch Charge Young Lina, Sancho Yon Chi Sente, Namchi Derkin Revenue make holds at the Monam Tabari, Tela Sora Tab Sadutin, Namgar gave us some Kanchi Batamji. Then Salab Dutch Charge Yon Sabjatamji, Linity, Yon Tongoret, Jew the Sancho, same Jew the Jene, Jew take a mood, take a Jew lean, then the Sancho same Yogan Tongo, then the Yanta Batawak and Yogan Tong, Sancho same Yogan Yanta Batawak and Reverman go already, Namji Derkin Revenue man, Ho, Jipa Tripi, so the Risama cheap. Tamji so the rest of Machiba Tamji la Soran Depa and Deki Kanakantayere. Tang Hermecon, my address and the small letters. Now I need to use for my magic glass, but now Champs ready. Deki good near Jinamje, Togi the Latanka to make up a part of the Gavi, the Jimbarodo, Zimda Arming Adines, Zimda Amni sounds, Pacha Amni on Kapak de Halepake, Zabalama, Konik, Chule, and Barodo Generi, or Tata Amni Jupa, Halepake, Puliori, Zimda Amni sounds, that they sang Zabalama, then Barodo Jela, Chuleneri, or the Tatini, Konik Tridawa. Reu Carpojanja Namdoma, Zemda Amyanga, the Samkang the Tipa, Derto Lame Jason Zamba George.
So after that, the next stanza mentions several people. The names are given in Sanskrit. Some of them, the Chakravartin known as Dong, the Suyimihi, the dungshi de kolo jowa po de suyina mishi.
동절근 체나 다 하고 말이.
We don't know.
다 기라.
And then Uparaja was a great. These are probably Dharma kings, because then Indrabhuti, of course, was the king of Udayana. Several kings, in fact, because it was a lineage name like Henry or Charles that got used again. Kaushika, Shuddhodana, and Ashoka. I don't remember who Kaushika was. Shuddhodana was the Buddha's father, King Shuddhodana. And Ashoka was the great preeminent Buddhist king of India. And he's so treasured by the people of India that the flag of India shows the wheel design with, I think, 32 spokes of Ashoka in the center of it. So I think this is mostly a list of Dharma kings. And then the three forebears may actually refer to Kaushika, Shuddhodana, and Ashoka. We're not quite sure. Anyway, great kings of Dharma. Yeah. And then Anye Dampa, the great being Kunrin, Vajracharya, Kunga, Yeshe, Chotro Jeltsin, Chotro Kungang, Kunga Namjel, no idea. But great masters or siddhas. And then he says all the hidden siddhas, past and present. So all of the teachers who we know by name or don't know by name, great masters of the present and the past, and all the gurus, so kind to all, so kind to me. Your qualities are inconceivable. I pray to you with devotion and fierce longing. Now the last two lines on page 256, Lama said, kind of summarize the point of this whole prayer. It says, all of you are emanations of the victors. I pray to you all without partiality or sectarianism. So the point of the prayer is we pray to the gurus of our lineage and of course to our own root gurus, but we also pray to the gurus of other lineages and to their present inheritors. Because whether there are gurus or not, they are equally emanations of the Buddhas, of the victors. And therefore, he says, I pray to you all without partiality or sectarianism. Because when we forget that, when we think, well, just stick to ourselves, then we become naturally narrow-minded. And when you pray to someone, even if it's someone you've never met, who is an emanation of the Buddha, you receive tremendous blessings. So it's worthwhile praying without sectarianism. And then that completes the prayer, and then the last 5 lines are the aspiration that goes with it. Anoint with the Amrita rain of your blessing all the virtuous seeds in this vast field, the good soil of our devotion. Nurture the seedling of awakening, ripen its fruit, omniscient, asugatahood or Buddhahood. So in other words, he's saying, by the power of my praying to you, grant your blessings so that I generate authentic bodhicitta, come to correctly realize the nature of things, and achieve Buddhahood. So those lines essentially dedicate, with aspiration, the prayer. And then the Colophon says, at the request of those wishing for a prayer like this to the great accomplished beings of various traditions, this was written by the person who was given by deities and dakinis the name Palchen Yeshe Terchen Barway Dorje in the retreat hut of Amnying of Zeda. May all who contact this be cared for by gurus. The Lama said that the Zeda Anying is a community that they wear the white robes of tantrikas, and this community, which still exists, he said, is based on, they follow the tradition of both Chokje Lingpa and Terchen Barway Dorje. So the teachers of the first generation of that community were those two. And it was in that community, in the retreat facility there, that he wrote this prayer.
Yeah, then it that right and ya then is on the tong is Sanya Tilong Chibrava, San Jo Ori, then he Tawatilina Yabosari.
So we'll stop there. From this point onward, the rest of the text, for the most part, is going to be very short prayers written for the needs of each tradition. We'll go through them in successive weekends. But in many cases, it will be simply a matter, Lama said, of giving you the reading transmission and then commenting on any points that require explanation. So now, let's turn to questions and answers.
Yes. Oh. If they don't have it, and
No, they have many online.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. You want to ask the ones from yesterday?
Oh, okay. All right, so this is again from Michael Gabal.
Oh.
And he says, I know, that one we did yesterday. So he had a second question. Patients sometimes come to the hospital to die and only receive meds that alleviate their pain as they die. The nurses give these meds. Sometimes these meds speed up their death and cause it. Is this breaking the bodhisattva vow?
The medications sometimes hasten their death? Can you give some explanation?
Trouble breathing. So if you are unable to breathe, and let's say you're not going to go on a ventilator, it's an incredibly painful process. So you can imagine it's like drowning. So to relieve that sensation of drowning, they will give certain kinds of medications which actually slow down the breathing. But in that process, it does tend to hasten death.
Okay. All right. That menji looks so good. That kashe ke rangshuk ne dewa de ngup thogumdo. Yang kashe ke chalak mompo tsuk ne de zogiore kashe la de mengo sangomone lapsa ne dene konso da rangjin ji shiro choro che lagyore. A rangjin ji shiro che shi tangdu che sena konso ke ngup ma tobna be ma se zungu chamo yore. Pena chunan da jingwa na shin ke zungu yore. Den so den sowa dragpo de so ma shiva ki men trek yore. Zungu ma yoma kele. Zungu ma loma ki men tena mong chawa ki te sam rangjin ji di shiwa te jobo shigi yore. Konso menge segi mare te zungu chok jeba te ki te rangjin ji kanse ke to te ji zungu mepa ki kone rangjin ji drogi yore. Te dikba rebe. Mempa te so trena dikba rebe. Mempa ke donda te konso sowa te dragpo zometapa ke zungu dragpo yopate mepa zaya ke donda yore.
다땡원에 소전된 히 마히와리 소전된나 담미데게 시욕 미나 마흉 성을 히버 탑리라 핑크나 데데 핑크도 데 핑선 삼바 잠고리 데게 녜 데게 산초 셈 누체 요리 삼히금도 데니 데 코란 속에 성의 쪽기 가야 먹을람네 이제 야마지 나오네 당 가리 콘속에 레데 데 수지가 미면나 성의 쪽기라이나 성의 희지가 탑라 nga 좀 베콜이라다 인처리가 켜나 튜저 성의 배 혁침보리다 망체기도 소소가 레링 하마사가 레데 사고리 상고리데 상고리데 ena samsamsala te song 혁침보요나 nga choka larje bog larje ka te sa zenjong mi te te kari te na ge ko samba zambo ji in the yana take see you come in carry new ji cheda
Assuming that the patient, the dying patient, has stipulated that they don't want to be put on a ventilator, and they, unless they have also stipulated that they don't want to be given the whatever medication that is that pacifies the agony of being unable to breathe, unless they have made that additional stipulation, I don't think, Lama said, there's anything wrong with giving them these meds, because the intention of the physician, and this is done by Tibetan doctors as well as doctors here, is to pacify their horrific agony, their pain. You're not giving them these things in order to hasten their death. The principal action of the medication is to alleviate the suffering. And assuming that the person is not placed on artificial life support, such as a ventilator, which again we're assuming that they've specified that they don't want it, they're going to die naturally of their own karma. And so even if you could make a case that their peaceful death is going to happen faster than their agonizing death would have happened without the symptomatic relief, I don't think that there's anything wrong with giving it to them, because the principal function of the medication, and certainly the intention of the prescribing physician and administering doctors and nurses, is to alleviate their pain.
Anyone else? All right, I'll go on to the next one, and then there might be some online.
Mhm.
Looking indeed.
good
Vajracharya. So, not a lot has been said about the third line. Oh, sorry. Prajnakaya. I don't know who this is.
Who?
Prajnakaya.
kaya
No Prajnakaya here.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Prajnakaya.
Well, I'm trying. Thomas said that I should actually say who's, so everyone knows.
Oh, you're supposed to know? So
No,
you can laugh
but,
at them?
well, sometimes people have their name and you know who it is. But
Okay, who
sometimes
is
I
it?
don't.
oh
I don't know who this is, but anyway,
Well, I don't know who Prajnakaya is either. Is that the person asking the question, or
Yes,
the
that's-
subject?
no,
The
no,
person
that's
who's
who's
asking it
asking,
is called
yeah.
Prajnakaya.
Well, that's their handle, their YouTube
Okay.
handle.
Oh, okay. I thought you were asking about Prajnakaya. Okay.
Not a lot was said about the third line of the first stanza. Mothers and Dakinis whose activity is unstoppable. How is it unstoppable? Can Lama please elaborate?
Okay. And so Prajnakaya wants to know how is it that the activity of the mothers and Dakinis is unstoppable?
Their activity.
Yeah, their
Yeah.
activities, yeah. So, Shaluka Damboge Tsik Sumpa de Tsawasum Shebekosa Madang Kandro Chinle Tokpa Me Sumpa Yore. De Madang Kandro ke Chinle Tokpa Mepa Yempaki Jutsen Karere.
organize na oro
Re Shri Dine
sala
Madang Kandro
tele
Chinle
madan
Tokpa
country so tele tomi madan country so
Re
tele tomi madan country so zo de dadanga zo ge zaksum nang de ne tele je zawa da country de chujong zo hie go ro dan tele toba me ba robot don zomba la kable me ba robot don zomba la todo me ba den zhe hie ge ma dan country ma tamji ma je na ma ju de mo ju female conduct ne zo ma dan country tamji so ma dan country tamji country ma tamji ge da la so ran de ko la tele toba me nga zo ge zawa sam no ngue de zawa lama 사업 자와 라마 ngödög 자와 야담 텔레 자와 칸로 추종 저로 왔다 텔레로 내가 들어가다 갑래 오마 백 야기나 그랭따란달레나 초 내가 들어가다 소소 소란 뎁 제적인 뎁 탑마 터리면서 마녀마 빨모게 초나 내가 들어가 kable tsawa ni yo ma re nim si tu to le de na.
Well, the reason why the supplication to the Dakinis says the mothers and Dakinis of unstoppable activity is because among the three roots, the Dakinis and Dhammapalas are identified as the root of activity. And just as we pray to the gurus for blessing and the yidams for attainment or siddhi, we pray to the Dakinis and Dhammapalas for blessings. And here, when it says mothers, it means all female deities. And so you're praying to these female deities that they protect you, remove impediments, and so on, which they are renowned as especially quick at doing. Probably the foremost example of this would be Arya Tara. It's said that Tara's activity, her responsiveness, is supremely quick. If you can pray one-pointedly to Tara, she will alleviate whatever adversity or provide whatever resource you pray for. And so they're unstoppable in the sense that their activity is invincible. It's what they do. Yeah.
This is Peter.
What's Peter?
Prajnakaya.
Prajnakaya is Peter.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Prachan, Kaya, Peter.
Okay. Good. No, a different Peter.
Oh, different.
I think Peter Elias, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's you. Yeah, nice.
If there's anyone in the room who has a question, yeah.
He's not quickly karma activity, you know.
Oh, okay.
Little like penati, the like black dharmapala.
Lama's making a joke about the story that the particular protector of the Mahakala associated with the successive Jawan Kamapas, Benachan, the black-cloaked one, he's not the quickest to respond, but when he does respond, it's serious. I don't know, their story comes from the life of Karmapakshi, I think. So.
Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
So my question was about praying to, let's say, the guru, but then, so would it be, the mindset we should have, should it be directed towards the root guru or it kind of open towards all? Like my question is, where do we put the attention on praying for blessings?
Jinla go samkhen chege sosu ke tsawe lama chikpu la sowa tapna zaparedam lama tsama la sowa tapna zaparedam.
Tate ganza ke loyi juyo re. Ganza ke loyi juyo na chikdi dupung obo. Tsawa lama to nga so ke ta chad dang de tsawa lama chikdi dang ro wa. Ta ganza ke sem dendra ke lo te tsame wa re ke nga chikdi tsawa lama kundu chung obo tsawa lama chike cho samni re ke ngarang ke ta chu de na jarwa thamji jarwa seta cheba thamji lama yongsu zoba sage kani rimi cha lama yongsu zoba te telandar ko ya salap te tenin yong ko de desa yi michili ta lama re yend juba lama ta lama de chachang la soran de gi na ga ayun sa no namto tandre che ga yore tandre se na cha lama kang mama la sora top dola salam yokari de so kanza lo ke ndambari.
It depends upon the attitude of the person praying. If you are confident beyond any doubt that your root guru embodies the attributes, virtues, and wisdom of all present and past root and lineage gurus in one, then it will be most efficacious for you to pray to your root guru alone, because you are confident that they embody all of them. But if you have any doubt that the root guru embodies all of the attributes and qualities and wisdom of all other present and past gurus, then you should pray to those in whom you have confidence also.
Okay, so the next one is Peter again. Thank you, Lama, for sharing these inspiring stories and accounts of some of the great masters of the various lineages. Devotion is clearly paramount. Cultivating is essential. Does Lama have any thoughts about fostering and cultivating Dharma community may perhaps be a factor in the generation of devotion in individual practitioners? Should I read that again?
You mean, is he asking if practicing in a community is conducive to greater devotion?
I'm not sure. Let me read it again.
No, I think that's what he's saying. It sounded like that, right? Yeah, like that something in the community, but there was one word, that hasta or pasta or something.
All right, let me read it again. And does Lama have any thoughts about how fostering and cultivating...
Fostering.
Fostering.
Okay. Yeah. Fostering.
And cultivating Dharma community may perhaps be a factor in the generation of devotion in individual practitioners.
How fostering the community or fostering devotion? Fostering a community. So in other words, will fostering a community help the individuals who make up that community have more devotion? Yeah, that sounds okay.
Sounds Tinglish.
Yeah, Tinglish, yeah. It's a little bit of Tinglish, yeah. Yeah. So ke the gerji nyamlan gerji ke dona mi tumondo sopa tsone den mugu so ke nyamlan pa so ke mugu compiled dorje dona so ke nyamlan so konazo sopa matso le sopa tsone nyamlan zona de mugu gompaya la pengrepes.
Oh ya, dade le lawori. 참삼서 초바 캬는 초는 무 컴퓨터 당야를 핀토 체콜린 초만게 당 양웨 손데웨인데 오네 대바 담체 직관라고 제기제라 제조걸요 제 대바 담체 자만라고 멋제게 포모제게 제 로마 담체 제 샘직라고 우나 할레바게 무음 페야다 핀거리 소제제나 남도 마야라 누크레 마망기 냠던 소반소데 머르레 큐람 드라마라리 큐람 드라마라 남도 드라마라 절레 남도 드라마라 진라테네 나초 센나 라마미 차데 양 야라 무 컴펠런 로야미리 셀마 파저 핀자 발라라 중 망본 통야다 남도 망보 줘야다 누어세 파리 데인데 말라레바 롱다나 랑이 찍부르 곰네 무 컴펠터 당야데 케체 상네 다 던져 송어들이 되는 가르게 조든 초토니 상계사게 로지오 송어들이 다때 강사라라라 다당에 고니 휴바나게 간주케게 돈의 뒤전도 매바 강사라라 소소고 샘 고저인데 소소샘 소소 하고거든 나라 가르게 핀도 체한도 따야데 개침버린다.
Well, short answer is well, and then the long answer. Sometimes, under some circumstances, it's true for some that practicing in community will increase your devotion, provided that those with whom you practice share your devotion and commitment to begin with. So in those circumstances, practicing in community can increase the devotion of individuals. Sometimes, however, it can do the reverse, because we are all given to thinking. And if you give rise to thoughts about your fellow practitioners, you have to understand, in Tibetan the word namtok can mean just thought, a thought that arises. But it can also have the connotation, sometimes it's used to mean superstition, and sometimes it can mean reservations, you know. Not like restaurant reservations, but, you know, I have some reservations about that. That namtok could be one word you use for that. So because we think, it's possible that we might have thoughts about the others in the community, and then it might actually lessen our devotion. So historically, we've seen that great masters have given different advice about this. Jetsun Milarepa famously said, practice alone, stay alone, just stay on your own. And other great masters have also reported that if you practice in community, everyone achieves Buddhahood together. So the final practical answer is, you have to see, it's an individual choice, and you have to see how you respond. As an individual, do you find practicing in community, at least from time to time, is beneficial to your devotion or not? So it's really an individual choice.
Okay, so now...
Hi, I wanted to thank both lamas very much for this teaching, and I really, it benefits me tremendously. I guess I'm struggling to put together my question, because every time I think about it, it falls apart. But I think from what Lama said this morning about relative bodhicitta, I think that's where I try to focus, and it really makes a lot of sense here in the Dharma Center among Dharma friends and the teachers and my guru. So, but when I go outside, it becomes very difficult, and I'm kind of, I feel like I'm here in. I'm safe and everything is really easy to, or at least I feel comfortable being open to things that I don't understand at times. But then when I'm out kind of in that ocean of mess, it becomes very difficult. And I'm also a monkey, so I have a tendency to want to play with things, and I get myself into all crazy situations, and that's been my life. I've gotten into all kinds of...
When you say you're a monkey, do you mean you were born in the monkey year?
Yes.
You were born in a monkey year?
Yes, I think
okay.
Lama knows I'm a monkey anyways. Yeah. But I get myself into all kinds of...
Because we are basically monkeys. I mean, we're, you know...
Means my tradition is we are talking about we are father's monkey.
Yeah, the Tibetan, you know, each culture has its own origin legend. And the Tibetan origin legend is that Tibet was not populated by humans, but that eventually Chenrezig got the idea that it could become a place to which the Buddha's teachings might spread in the distant future. So he emanated as a monkey, who was an emanation of Chenrezig, and he got together with a demoness, a carnivorous demoness, non-human spirit of some kind, and they had 6 children who were the first Tibetans. And so when Tibetans talk about their own ethnic heritage, at least in very old-fashioned Tibetans, they would say, well, we're half monkey, so we're kind of mischievous, and we're half demoness, and that's why we really like to eat meat. They used to say that. And of course, it's an understanding of evolution that is articulated as a traditional legend. So it's actually true of all of us, I suppose.
Okay.
But
So I guess what I'm
you
wanted to
were
say.
born in the year of the monkey.
Yes,
so
I was.
that's serious, yeah.
So maybe I'm a double monkey. I don't know. But so I think I get myself into all kinds of troubles and things like that with people, and with relative bodhicitta, I try to tell myself that all people were my mother at one point in time, or I was their mother at one point in time. But because I have so many kleshas and veils, that I oftentimes get myself into very strange situations, I think. But in the end, I guess what I'm asking is, how do I get back to developing and advancing that feeling of bodhicitta? I know there probably are so many ways of doing this, but within the context of what Lama said, could he comment on that?
Okay. Kong ranga dusela age peo nojin yose. Chiktana kong age lopare. Chiktana shidon korange te shede yena ramanda mompo de dona nyota magosh in the nyota ramanda mompo samkenchi race. Da chuso dang chitun ke nala dedo de kunzo changchu chisem chepa de la kalemendo. Da chuso le gombo shune chilo do the nangla ledu lekala ledu de some kale yores. Kale kan yosena age peoke ke sempo yores. De age peoke sempo de dang ngane ke kunzo changchu chisem de ni tes drigmendos. Dona de chuso nangla mepe kaso age peoke sem ma shia dang kunzo changchu chisem yar peya la karigo.
Hine te za gom. Hine te za gom za kunzup sancho ke sem kiya la hine go san tikpa chimbo lobjong ke kapsa la tangbo tongdam sancho ke sem ten tangbo ti yon diri. Tongdam sancho ke sem te tangbo te tsare tongi ke tawan ra ma gom hine ke sem te lupo ro ma cha na kunzup sancho ke sem te loja jie go na ya jie to ma ri song. Traditional la kunzup sancho ke sem tangbo ta tongdam sancho ke sem kaha de yori de. And lobjong ke kapsa la Tongda Sancho ke sem tambo gongo ya ta geja hie ko there's a hene te ke sem lupo hyo nyoda tongji wen ha ko ya de pe ke chen bori lamsa nge nyoda zong kda samni lamsa te ha ko de tin hi tembo ke mindfulness o nge nyoda zodo zo hondo samni ra ke to ba re jen du deni de la o nge nyoda mal nyoda zondu zoni ka mari da ngala mag nyoda zu na kamle kanda os de tia na giri nge mal nyoda zo ka menda sam ngarang la ka chu ki khor nyoda ma zo a ya bo ji a zo nga ga ke cha ki ma sem su cha teni mal zam tong ya bo si teni ta ni ri ka la ni ka de la o to ni lam na ya nga nyoda ki ni lam nyeng mo yong cho a nyoda se ke me a nge nam ya mal phi ma to na nu ji ke me a nyoda zo ke me a sa ngarang la tu jong do Jinso ta nga la gegin si to sin de jin de ge pin kan do nga la di lo ju kha sa nga rang la te si ne nga rang tu jong de me ba jong de ma yin zo han da a ko re nyo da sam no ma tong a nyo da sam no ma tong a ma la nu che ma bi a de la par de rang ge tong de ma la nu che ma bi a zo de ru sam no tong de ni chi ni lam na ya sam ba zang bo jang ma to ngin ba nyin ya mi li ka le ngin ba de jong de pa chi ro kan do de ko yo ko la o ma ri te ko te nekap lower bar ke chin lower bar ke te mege ke to pa ta marong le ka de che ho le te ha ko cham te ha ko cha de pha yo gi na te kale ko pa cha de se pa cha kar bo jon thu ro de ten di ni ma che la pa cha zang bo cha jang ma to ngi ba che ya mi le re ten ru kon ro le ra tin chi tem bo ke ten ri chi de la ten te pin
The easiest solution to this is to practice tranquility meditation, the shine meditation. For example, people often wonder, although in Mahayana in general, it's always taught that the relative bodhicitta must be cultivated first before there can be any authentic practice of the absolute bodhicitta. Although that's taught in the theoretical Mahayana, when we get down to the actual practical instructions of Mahayana mind training, the 7 points of mind training of Chikowa Yeshe Dorje, we see that meditation on absolute bodhicitta is taught before the practice of relative bodhicitta. The first 3 slogans are actually about meditation on absolute bodhicitta. And it's reasonable, why that doesn't sound practical. It actually is. In the best cases, if the person has a natural predisposition to the recognition of emptiness, they will gain some, at least preliminary experience of it. And that will thereafter facilitate their cultivation of relative bodhicitta, which is the main practice of that technique. But even if the person doesn't have any experience or recognition of emptiness through that meditation on absolute bodhicitta, it will calm them down. And the point really is, no matter who you are, the first thing you need to do in order to practice mind training, especially in post-meditation, is to calm down. By calming down, by slowing down, you give the faculties of mindfulness and vigilance that you are cultivating time to work. In the beginning, our mindfulness and vigilance are not that fast. They often arrive a little too late. You know, there are many moments of, ooh. And so by slowing down, by calming down, you slow the monkey down a little bit so that the mindfulness and vigilance can get there in time. And then since you're continuously cultivating mindfulness and vigilance or alertness through the practice of tranquility, they get faster until the point where your mindfulness, which is really just, the word means memory, it's your recollection of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. Your mindfulness will arrive at the scene on time. So an example of that, Lama said, is, let's say that you're in the type of situation which would normally have become the dangerous playground for monkey mind. So you're in a situation, whether it's nasty monkey, because monkeys can be nasty, or naughty monkey, because monkeys can be naughty. So you didn't specify whether you were a naughty monkey or a nasty monkey, but anyway, monkey of some kind. And so because you've cultivated mindfulness and alertness, and mindfulness is the memory of what you want to do and what you don't want to do, what your intentions are. Alertness in this context is the supervising faculty within your mind, which enables you to tell whether you are mindful or not of your intention. And you need both, because the mindfulness needs that backup of alertness. So at some point, you will have the thought, because of your intention, because of your mindfulness, I'm about to create a problem. Now, the knowledge, I'm about to create a problem, that's alertness. The alertness or vigilance is what caught it. Then that allows mindfulness to function with the thought, I don't want to create problems. You know? So although we put alertness second, we say mindfulness and alertness, or mindfulness and vigilance, alertness has to get there first for mindfulness to trigger in. And that's where people sometimes have trouble employing this, because you have to be alert enough that you know you're about to create a problem before you create the problem. And then you remind yourself, I've decided I don't want to create any more problems. I don't do that anymore, whatever it is. So every time that you have those thoughts, I'm about to create a problem, which is alertness, and the early warning system, and then I don't want to create problems, which is the mindfulness. Every time you have those two thoughts working together, you create a counteractive habit, a good habit. And in the beginning, that habit seems very puny when you compare it to the strong habit of wanting to monkey about. But as each time you have those thoughts and approve of those thoughts, because you don't reject them, you subscribe to them. Each time the habit of mindfulness and alertness increases, and that starts to lessen the power of the negative habit that you're trying to overcome. There are opportunities throughout the day and night, Lama said, which you can use to increase this habit. For example, when you go to sleep at night, before going to sleep, say to yourself, I don't want, during my dreams tonight, to create problems. Now you might say, well, who cares? They're just dreams. There's no other person actually there to suffer from your monkey business. But you are there. And if you have the habit, I'm not going to create problems even in my dreams, that's a very strong investment in that intention of mindfulness, in your memory or your recollection, it's all the same word in Tibetan, of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. So by saying to yourself, tonight in my dreams, I do not want to create any problems. And then you pray, you say, may I not create any problems in my dreams tonight. That becomes that sends a very powerful message to your brain. Because the sleep and dream is a time that we're all used to just goofing off. We think of it as useless time that we need to sleep, but we can't do anything powerful in there. When you take control of that time of your day that you used to goof off and you say, no, I'm going to use this intentionally. I am not going to make problems in my dreams tonight. Because it's a remarkable thing to do, it creates a very strong impression, very strong habit. And you will very quickly, if you do this every night, notice that as soon as you wake up in the morning, and frequently throughout the day, you'll have this thought, I don't want to create any more problems. I don't want to create any more problems. May I not create problems? So you've actually made use of what's normally the wasted time of sleep to strongly support that habit of remedy. When you get to the point where you really don't create problems in sleep, where in your dreams you're a nice person and not either a nasty monkey or naughty monkey, whichever kind of monkey you are, then that means that the habit is wearing through and it's really starting to work. But you still keep on cultivating the habit. So the short answer is shine, tranquility meditation, and the long answer is all of that.
You and, practice.
Okay, loud. Am I here? Yeah.
That's it.
So, Nina, Can Lama please say more about the primordial unity of compassion and emptiness? I've heard in teachings of unity of luminosity, emptiness, but not of compassion and emptiness.
Okay, yeah. I think Nina is an art historian who's come here over the years. If you said Nina, yeah, I think she's an art historian. She knows a lot about this. If she's the person I think, she knows a lot about the history of early Buddhist art. Dering song song, kasong song song, dering song song, the Tony Ninja Yerme song bares. Chitong so the Seltong Yerme ke tiny Mombo go songs. The Tony Ninja Yerme kanla sagyo.
동니 닝지 예미스 저랑 추탐지 정마다 물람나게 동반이 강다 다 태바 침불로서 희나 동니 강한데 냠바리 동반이 가서 연바 희리 다음에 저 동반이마도 띵야 요 말이 다스려야 돼 띵야 자반이 니 요마 제감 같이 다 빈자다 탐지 제감 거 이렇게서 탐지 요감 거 제jo 가리세나 연다 지나 조보에나 서나 발섬 가리마고 가리지나 저는 샘세야 니 좀일이 상마대 동반이 임바대 가서게 ngōwāla mādhāpa yambāte ngā sō ka drab thab kari dhamd. Tōngbāni tī ngōwā tēne, tōngnī tī dāng tēla, tōngbāni tēla māyū yanda rōla nīngyari hyok khenpo tsam jōli, nīngyari tsēwā lōpari hyok khenpo lēm jōli. Hyok khenpo lēm kōri, tsēwā tēlā rōka mārī nā chāri, tōngbāni zōdi nā tōmi rōka kāng mī sōngsā tūrū mārī. Tōngnī tī ngōwā tē, hī jamewa, jū jamewa, nī jamewa tī ngōwā tēne, rola 닝게를 혁 켐보를 찐 거래. 가서게 따와 양답을 줄을 찐데 닝게. 다디 닝게에 대한 쟁용도 저랑 니야 요 말이. 닝게에 대한 니야 미데 닝게에 대한 던던도 졸리를 띵야 저 띵죠 말이. 고요 예 가도 족 가도 까말 띵죠 말이. 얘나야 닝게 혁 켐보리. 저랑 제와 켐본도와 저랑 제와 켐보리. 나랑 송접 생기래. 디 제와데 띵좀도 어리리 졸리 이나 디 ngōwātene 파다 제와 자켐보 램간도 원로 띵한데 디 닝게 때라 똥니데 당 망가 강니 닝게를 캬르가다 때라 닝게 때라 똥니니 때나 똥바니 너리도 가하라고 닝게 너리도 가하라고 저나기 이해지 니가 말이 이해지 머니와 때라 똥니 닝게 열미 졸리 다디 띵좀 매와레나 하고는데 저래 던득게 이해는 송족외네 내대올래 동반이다 흰견이 송족외네 내대올래 내직 내대올래 띵주 요 말이 디서나 동인 흰기 열미존에 다히에 거들이 데라 데라 곰 냠니시나 하고 탑거리 냠니 마신 지 요사리 쌈 저랑 나올리 맞은 나도 나다 나유 존도 그냥 망보 요래 데데데다
To start with, according to the Mahayana, all things, all dharmas or objects of the mind, including the mind itself, are unreal, like magical illusions. Which means that there is nothing of any kind, anywhere, that is not emptiness. That's the basic understanding of the Mahayana. So when you, whether in direct experience in placement meditation, resting meditation, or in the meditative cultivation of logical analysis in analytical meditation, when you look for the self, for yourself, you can't find anything. There may be the illusion of a self, but there is nothing to justify that illusion anywhere. In the same way, when you look for other individuals or phenomena that you tend to think of as other than yourself, you can't find them anywhere. There is this feeling or sense that there are self and other, but there is nothing there whatsoever. When you look for your mind, it's the same thing. You don't find anything. You can't point to anything and say, this is myself, this is my mind, this is other than myself or other than my mind. So when in that way, whether through analytical meditation or resting meditation, you gain some experience of emptiness as the nature of everything, the affect, the feeling that accompanies that experience of emptiness is incredibly powerful compassion. We're used to feelings. We're used to how we feel in this situation, in that situation. But when someone has any realization of emptiness, the feeling that always accompanies that realization, we could say it's the feeling of the realization itself, is an incredibly powerful compassion. It's a compassion that is not predicated on a person feeling compassion and the objects of the compassion. It's compassion like the way we have compassion for ourselves, but it's compassion for everyone, without distinction. And while you are experiencing, while you're in the midst of experiencing that feeling of spontaneous compassion, emptiness is most vividly, most clearly recognized, to the point at which it's not an alternation, like sometimes you experience emptiness and sometimes you experience compassion. It's the opposite of that. The compassion is itself the experience of emptiness, and the experience of emptiness is itself the experience of compassion. So finally, although you can't find that compassion and show it to someone else or track it down and say, my compassion is here or my compassion is this, you can't even call it your compassion, it's completely inseparable from that emptiness, that realization of emptiness. So that finally you would have to say that emptiness is compassion. Compassion is emptiness.
송접 세사고 그 로주 무슨 맥인 통디 사가게 셰가 통통이 정이고 제가 라마 산초도지리 공종산이 야온데 다 냐마망보 올은 로고 공산초도지 냐라 산초도지 냐라 특히 산초도진다는 손데 냐마망보 코르포코나 산탕장자 내온 칼라야보라 사마리 년치면 펩데데 데니 산초도진다는 제블라 칼라
펩켄데
라마 산초도지리
정주도지.
라마 산초도지
된 공게
냐라 산초지라
도나 정주도지 니요.
니가 산초도지를 매
아요. 데네 공 차사데 냐라 정주도지.
리콩 로사데 냐라 산초도지 근데 온사데 종사계라네 아오리 데니 공 냐마망보 잡도 코르포코는 손에다 빼 칼라메 냥치면 손데데 깔레 효효 카사리 데니 라만지라 레블라 칼라 공간도 리오서 공간도 스론도 데니 라마 산지 냐라 산지도지 프리른고라 어디 조사 발라니 마초 쳔보름 본다 어디 짱보 쳔보래 초 쳔보데 발 공바자네 뭐는 로고나 잼야면도 시다 다 도공 드는 도고는 공 차네 히사리스 대공 가래 고나서 삼반면도 시 마차가 로바 생케 오마리스 대공 가래 고나서 데네 टाके 다 라만지 도공 잼마팅 드는 도고나 가 히사리티 소라타게 데데 바르텔 가야 밀레게 초파르칸 나로르랭스 야 나로젠 달라 카바자게 데디야 르자데 가서 교는 로 초거리 상적 차리
라서
파르간 야를 랭그시 때데도 태게 데 쳐잡데 콘다서 랩서
야.
쳐 장보 잡니 쳐서
서초라.
오 철코 콘다 콘자 랭그시 콘게 다 단드라카 람로티 야를 야 공여서 야를 야 공데 야가 커디 쳐 파르카즈 로송시 파르카 랩데
야케 첼셰기도 해.
초지터리 야 쳐배 할레바리
에이.
리 촌보고 야 할레바리 초 파르카 커송시 초 파르카 랩서 over the river then ko ya mapadı then ya de then panga ko laman dena ne rungo de yan rogo se yan ro chi wede tsik de ya khona mo dosi ya khona mo dosi la
Ya.
zawani de kon pa laman de song then to gom laman ji ma song se de kon then jara di senyam kon laman ji song de lama ga ha 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 khore so da gon ka le kha song se kha song la de di ya de che pin to oti song ya de pin to oti song lamsa to oti ro mo che ya ga to oti mo nga cho ni thar ma de la de o dari den de song la ya de kong ge soma nga ya ro so wa de de soma de dunju ge le go de ya de ko soma gan ko la ya bin lem jo ro wa de na bo chuk sum jo ko la ro wa ya na bo da
콜라 나보충섬.
콜라 나보 chuk sum jo ro wa ya na bo sa na bo cha na bo na mo na bo jo ro wa de dunju ge song ro wa ngu so la ma ge soma nga ya ro so o dari da ko pin to ni de song ro
주tion데 그 젠콩 소마스.
soma de dia ma de song
I thought of a cute story Lama said that it kind of occurred to me in reference to Ilya's question, I guess it was yesterday, about the Dharmapalas. It's again a story of about one of Lama's teachers, Gyamtso Dorje, who he told a lot of stories. But in this case, a little confusing until I tell you. This Lama's teacher, Gyamtso Dorje, was going to visit another great teacher called Nyala Gyamtso Dorje. So they both had the student, in this case Lama's Lama Gyamtso Dorje was the student in the story, going to meet with the great master Nyala Gyamtso Dorje. And if you have to be careful how you say Nyala, because in our foreigners' pronunciation, if we don't pronounce it right, we're saying hell. So you don't want to. But anyway, there's a lot of that.
easy to be called Gyaliwa sanchok dorja la
kong direba Nyala jung the Jalupate.
Gyaliwa sanchok
Gyamtso Dorje. Okay, yeah. And sometimes people call the Nyala Gyamtso Dorje, they call him the rainbow body Gyamtso Dorje. And but then the problem is so many of these guys achieve rainbow bodies that it gets confusing. Which one are you talking about? This one or that one? And so at this point, Lama, I'll call the student Lama Gyamtso Dorje and the other one Nyala Gyamtso Dorje. Lama Gyamtso Dorje was traveling from the college at Dzongsar Monastery, the Sakya College of Dzongsar, to the area to visit Nyala Gyamtso Dorje. And going there on foot, of course, it was a very difficult journey. And he was carrying all his food and other provisions in a pack on his back. And it was a winter and very cold. And he arrived in the vicinity where Nyala Gyamtso Dorje had his residence on top of a mountain. He arrived there in the afternoon, late afternoon. And in between him and the mountain where Nyala Gyamtso Dorje's residence was a very wide river, the kind of river that you couldn't cross on your own, and there was no bridge. So then he thought, this is a difficult situation, because he couldn't cross the river, which was the only way of getting to any kind of shelter. And if he stayed overnight on the side he had reached of the river, the wrong side of the river, he would probably freeze to death. There was no place to shelter. So he was thinking, how am I going to get across this raging river? And all of a sudden, as he was thinking that, he noticed a yak. And the yak had a nose ring through its nostrils, which is a sign that the yak was biddable. In other words, that it was somewhat domesticated, and you could ride it across the river. Now, when Lama got to that point, I said, "You mean yaks can swim?" He said, "Oh, they're great swimmers." Who knew? Anyway, apparently. So he called the yak over, and the yak allowed him to get on top of it, and he rode the yak across the river. And when he got to the other side, he got down off the yak and looked up for a second at the mountain he had to climb to get to where Nyala Gyamtso Dorje was. And then when he looked back to the yak wasn't there. There was just nothing there. So he climbed the mountain, and that night, the second night, he didn't actually, no, it's the same night, he didn't see he didn't meet Nyala Gyamtso Dorje that night, but the next day he did. And when he showed up to greet him, Nyala Gyamtso Dorje said to him, "Ha ha ha, did you have a hard time yesterday?" And he said, yes, I did. And he said, "Well, did that yak help?" And he said, "Yes. In fact, had that yak not shown up, there would have been no way for me to get here. I don't know what would have happened to me." He said, "Yeah, I thought so. That's why I sent that yak. It's one of my protectors."
Sorry, then lagi katam deni wanong yongzo hu then ha so ma ka kati di khu za ko ju la men zo purba de zo si then ha so ma sor ka di yongzo ha so ma je ba de purba de cha chang ko ni ma re le ko ju nyong ma lon dong xi nga ge pen yan zheng a ri wo ni pen yan zheng a ko ma ja ri ji ni ko chong ban da ri de gong ba cha da ma cho ma ko chu pon ya bo se ri to ma ya bo ja ri gang da yan chang ya bo chang ri then dong ba ya bo dong ri de ko ni ma je la jo ra la 다다 레바 요리 레바 좀 다서 레바 열감이라 가서 때서 년들이 다다 참듯을 저라 가지고 track 접었나 용도 체대 다 근근아마라 then 15,000 pacha 60,000 read also ko tesa ori 열감이 카완반도 저라 가지고 track 참듯 랍스니 바 참듯 serponi tree 야 남타티 저기도 다대 포바티나 kon 요도 고제 깔고 레위 찍바마도 공고마 열감이라
네, 공캔데 제렉 본자마에 봐. 현다체.
현다체 라긴로 레바 조브란 레바 콩 다다다 레바 망보 콩소만도 나주 콩치보 용도든 되는 거 다다 빼야도 코텐 지성 롱고 성로 지성데 롱고 랑가 모던 조사 탑차리 요리 다 럽벤 통보리 마 용고는 백갑레 요리 데 모다 마고 콜로니 형사마도 로드 요마리 되니 마 랑가는 마 바고 탕 나온 거는 빼 콜로 찍디는 해점마도요. 되니 콜라만 지성 된 라마가 서로 거는 깨자히 된듯이 레바데게 레바 되니 마이로비디세요. 마이로 친리.
친 없어.
마이로 친. 당아 나는 로거리 참 로거리 레바 라긴가 로겐데 다도 고마 손난 데리스. 안 데이 마링가 농카가 히게 로거서 남마 어린가 난참 로거다. 다도 건 친다 대다 고정도 카와밥데서. 다 모던 롱고니 탕는 로거리. 다 카와나 휴게 다코 도건 송고데 통사 말이 된 로고사리 상 라마치게 소로 토경한 로로 라빈 라마 어지게 말이 낭헐는 로고 초 지지kan ngajil khoso. 라마레바 지나마도 카와나 콩콩을 정도 코 모다 칼렌도도 콩 지무도세 쿠교쟁이 레바 송송소 라마. 라마레바
샵톤.
샵톤이 콩콩 지지가서 대대사데 오야 다초 생각고마 대다 적 나시진 로르고 송로스 라메 라마 시지 송비세 레바. 라마 야송차도 뭐다다 짱걸래.
짱걸래.
짱걸래. 다 짱거디 잭 송디세 쿵홍을 코 짱거디 간이 송디 데 조선데 탕는 코
tab deove de tang le ko tang le de jang kan ro mando
Dambo Lama gi jela song. Dene jema chongku gi jela
oh
song.
lama ge dang a ro go ma de cho ya jo song la de ni jang ge le song si de jang ge de ji ji ka je song de de tang yong le so de me bi de si jang ge de ko nang de le bi de si sen ram ge de ko den ri so la ro nge o ge jong ha song ma ma bon dong de de jang ge song ma ri ko de ya bo de nga ge song ma me ki de la gin ge song ma nga la nga song kong ge nga song ma ya bo song ko sa ri kong ge song ma nga la nga go tong song ge song ma me ki de ko ge nga song ma hyo ye ga nge ko de ni jang ge ri se ja jang ge ya bo nyo ya lo nyu de ko ti nyo ko nga song ma ya bo dong de kan ta ya de ya song ma gen go jiao rin do de den zhe ye ge ngu mi bi no ko so de
Punja drengma de Lama le kuno shembare be.
yong ba de chung chung dong ge de nga de ri
So Lama said another story about his middle brother, which means it's a brother younger than him, but not the youngest. And his middle brother is not a monk, but is a very good practitioner, and he specializes in the Kila practice of the Barway Dorje tradition. He received all the transmissions and empowerments for both the practice of Kila and of the Ekajati, the protectress Ekajati, from their grandfather Karma Tupten. And he practices the Kila and Ekajati, the long Ekajati or the full Ekajati practice every day. He's memorized them, and so he can just chant them by memory. Especially he's done a lot of Kila practice. And he's also very, very good chippen. He knows how to make all the tormas and do all that kind of stuff. And he's a businessman, and he likes to drink. That's what Lama said. So one time he was going to, so he does business and makes tormas and realizes yidams and protectors and has a little bit of a beer now and then. So he wanted to go and see a Repa, an old Lama who only wears cotton clothes, associated with Chodrak Monastery, who's in a cave that's at least 16,000 feet above sea level. It's one of the caves that was used by Chodrak Kaji Tashi. Kaji Tashi was the disciple of Terchen Barway Dorje who edited this and also the biography, Precious Essence, and all those things. And so this cave, it's called the Golden Cave and sometimes called the second Lachi. Lachi was a place, Lachi Snow Wall was one of Milarepa's practice caves. It was one of his highest in the Himalayas. And this one is called the second Lachi because of how high it is. And so he went up, he drove himself up to the cave.
yeah he's going to walk up there and he lived there many years
The Punjab
drove by himself
so Lama's brother drove up to this cave, but the road, so to speak, is barely wide enough for a standard car axle and the two wheels. So there's no wiggle room here. If one wheel goes over the side, either side, then your goose is cooked. Your bacon is in the fire. You're sleeping with the fishes. So
that's right.
So he drove up during the day on this precipitous road, and he got to the cave, and he spent some time meeting with and talking with this Lama, this Repa, this cotton-clad yogi. And then finally the sun set, and it was time to go. And the Lama said, well, I don't see how you can drive home on that road. It's dark. Why don't you just stay here? And then Lama's brother said, no, I have a family. I got to get back home. I got to drive back down. And the Lama said, well, all right, if you really need to go, I'll walk ahead of your car So you just follow me, and just make sure you're following me, and then you won't go off the road. So the Lama started to walk down this path, this road, and very slowly Lama's brother drove, it's a winding, crazy road down it. And then at a certain point, the Lama said, okay, you don't need me to guide you anymore. But they weren't down anywhere near the bottom. But the Lama said, okay, yeah, you don't need me to guide you. You'll be okay from here on. I'm going back up. And then he walked back up to his retreat. As soon as the Lama departed, a wolf showed up out of nowhere. Parked itself right in front of the cars, and then the wolf started to walk down. So he followed the wolf very, very carefully, keeping the wolf in the center of his windshield so that he knew he wasn't going off the road. And then gradually she led him down to where the ground was flat. And then once he was on flat ground, the wolf disappeared. He looked, no wolf. And so then he was able to drive home. And so when we heard the story, Lama said, he said to him, well, you chant Ekajati every night. This must have been your protectress coming to lead you. And my brother said, I don't know if it was my protectress. I think it was his protectress, that Lama, because he basically brought me to where she would take over and then said, okay, I can go back home. But that's the sort of thing protectors do.
Okay, thank you.
Are we out of? I have no sense of time.
Yeah, we have time.
Oh, we have 15 minutes.
15 minutes. If anyone have a question,
right,
as
well,
I do my best. Okay.
There's,
Yeah, there.
all right. Well, sorry, sorry,
okay.
Tom. There was one from Tom, but he won't get it.
Oh,
Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom on the down there. One. Then Tom bought what? Yeah. You gave it to her.
Who's?
All right. Tom, my Tom.
I know Tom,
Yeah.
but Prajnakaya I didn't know, but Tom I know. But so why don't you give it to that lady, and then we'll come back to Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Are there any practices or actions one can take to assist in getting to sleep at night and remaining sleep through the night?
Da mikasheke ni yagido le labo ni kokumendo ni kodnayang dene le labo jonring do koyak de kalayore de la penyak kariya.
당에 때를 평야대 자원인 희희 말에 다 냠니가 거기나 하예선라고 차로들이 나서 냠니 야부 김마 니를 히라 셈트라비 먹고마이나 니 많이 치면도 되니 곰냠니비 얘기나 다 되게나 되니 야본도 어때 말이랑 니 마코나 나차장케나 니 코디 탑신듯이 되니 땡땡 마코 조보의 데이터 메와 차서나 조보 데이터 메와 마차나 얘기나 다 냠니도 곰잡디게나 같이 있는 니 금방으로 가리 되니 조보 데이터 메와 차나 조보 헬티 프로블럼 데 페키 테이크 케어 거야 키 쳔보인데 되니 양미 살린다 탑키 치라베나 가면로 먼저 냠니고 거 계자히나 양 삼삼서 핑 그시리 된 삼서 핑 그말이 되니 든드시나 나라 니 먹고도 나라는 니 먹고도 대자 얘기한다 냠닌다 세겨도 곰타마 니 난디제는다 양 곰장도게도 니 코딘다 리저 어디리데 곰데 조제가 소글라노 곰타마 니 난디세리 곰장도게도 니 코단다 드르베 된도 피시 근도 든드어리 근도 되니 제나 간드리 코나 대사랑 헬티 테이크 케어 저 라지라 띵나 가면도 가렌다.
This is a common question, a common issue for many people. And I think that the answer needs to be contextualized because it depends upon each individual's body and practice. If you are a strong practitioner and you suffer from chronic insomnia or occasional insomnia, you won't care. because if you can't get to sleep naturally, you'll use the time. Since you can't sleep, even though you were planning to, you'll either study or meditate. And so from the point of view of a practitioner, we generally think of insomnia as a boon, as a bonus, as a plus, because we had assumed that we were going to be sleeping through that part of the night. Once we can't sleep, then that means we don't have to sleep, so we can do something else, study or practice as appropriate. However, if you find that the amount of sleep you're getting is insufficient for your health, then you'd best seek medical advice. There are doctors who specialize in sleep doctors or sleep experts, and they may be able to help you. The thing about practices that can be done before sleep, of course there are many, as most people know. The problem is they don't always help people go to sleep. Sometimes the practices that are done before sleep make it even harder for people to go to sleep. And that's very individual and almost unpredictable. What I do myself, he said, if I find that I'm unable to go to sleep on a given night, I will either study or meditate. And I find that if I do those long enough, eventually I will naturally start to fall asleep. We have a saying about this, that the worst kind of meditator is one who meditation causes them to fall asleep. And so I guess I fit that definition because it usually works. And then you had one from Tom.
Well, I have one, but this is probably a long one. So
Tom's?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A long question from Tom?
No, it's not a long question. It's probably a long answer.
Well, that could be fun.
Oh, sorry. Whoops. Sorry, forgot to put the mic here. So, sorry, there are just so many here. Now I've got to find it again. By the way, Nina said she's not the one who knows about early Buddhist art.
It's a different Nina. Okay.
That's a different Nina.
Okay.
Okay, so from Tom, in the biography of the second Barway Dorje, it mentions Barway Dorje was Milarepa. Can Lama Chatap give some history?
The ibardo ke namtor nanda sopo sondo Terchen Barway Dorje the Jutsin Milarepa ke yangsi namtro yempa sopo songatos. They can't
They read or the Nasoka Girap on the Nor, Yiba Tujakan to Yiba Dorje, good Java the Yiba Dorje only. Then Mala Yiba Dorje, then Jambarhini could Truka only. Con the Truka Mason, swords and the Mason, the swords and the Con Jambarhini could Truka only. Then the Tata the Milarepa, the Jambarhinita, Nepchin, the Truka on the Girap Ganana, Yori, Tang, Barway Dorje Kong, Givaji, Milarepa, so Milarepa, Yambaka, Kona, Mama, Tendrika, some Mama Pacha, Mambo Sia, Kura, Tendri, they read.
Well, according to the tradition, Milarepa was the reincarnation of among others, the Indian master Manjushri Mitra. Manjushri Mitra was the second human teacher of Dzogchen. He was the lineage holder of Vajracharya, the first Dzogchen teacher, and was also among the 8 Vidyadharas, the Vidyadhara of Manjushri Yamantaka. And so Manjushri Mitra was certainly an incarnation of Manjushri himself. And we see evidence of this in all of the supplications to the previous lives of Barway Dorje, as well as in the accounts of his previous lives, brief accounts of his previous lives given at the beginning of the Precious Essence. Now, after that life, eventually, Manjushri Mitra was reborn as Nupchen Sonji Yeshe, as we know, in Tibet, and after that, born as Milarepa. And so Milarepa was later reborn as Terchen Barway Dorje. So the issue that comes up is when, in the standard biography of Milarepa, when his disciples said, "Oh, Jetsun Milarepa, you're such a great master, of whom are you the incarnation?" He said, "I'm not the incarnation of anyone special. I recognize that your question comes out of your faith in me personally, but it's actually a failure to recognize the power of the Dharma." So in that life, Jetsun Milarepa did not particularly acknowledge that he was the rebirth of Manjushri Mitra or others, because he wanted his career of practice to stand by itself and to serve to prove the efficacy of the Dharma. But nevertheless, Milarepa was the rebirth of Manjushri Mitra, and so we consider, therefore, Jetsun Milarepa to have been one of the previous lives of Terchen Barway Dorje.
Te tata te nga amye khongdai na te jirap jagani jirap ko che hi jo mare te bu ne da we go na kon nup chi ga kap so nup la ji rong chong ge wa yen so ne sodron bo ji ge ngun zain na sa da te ni Barway Dorje nup chi kap so kon nup la ji rong chi kong chen ji so bo da la ji ge wa ni go re Barway Dorje Milarepa se do kap so kon repa hwa go tro ga so repa hwa go do be te sare prerin do te so pon da wo te ne te chin ga kap so la ta ta re job lama pe ma tmi lo de ge jambar chin ji ge ta ta ka ba hwan do ke te job lama pe ma tmi lo de ge je wa so Teni tata imbardu kapsala ki kamatati te kongi buni kirap tamji na Barway Dorje rawa me ba songdi sa sodo ke songde teni te songde teni raptor sangke kong turka be ngunzang se che sudrum bo che ke te tayek te nang sodo koma ke teni Barway Dorje ke ta jo turka be ma be choma turka ri che wa te che ju te nora me ba thura me ba re te chona ta ke Mingto tini nga tsalan dharmi je du teni maung pa sa chorang kan Barway Dorje tenpa ten nga le la sa choke per tabli ri te truka wen chali ya ma ya yo ma ri son yinbar du ke to song song zon kong tundri song jo
Te truku ke tri la ma shapa ke jusen de ibardo ke kanaware situ kanaware suku kanaware
trukan chal ma yo de yinbar du
ibardo
truka sin chali ya ma ya yo ma ri
Ore.
nga tsala du du la
Oh, la tsala
jima
du.
nga le la pa choke Barway Dorje ter ma phin thok ri song de teni truka we sang sang ba go ma ri song ro se teni
So, to the point where those close to Terchen Barway Dorje, in the case Lama said of his grandfather in particular, knew who they had been in the entourage of Milarepa. For example, according to the letters of recognition given to Kamatupten, Lama's grandfather, by the previous Situ Rinpoche, at the time of Nupchen Sanji Yeshe, he was the Laji Rongchen, or Rongtonpa, and who was a lineage holder of Nupchen Sanji Yeshe. And then later, during the time of Milarepa, he was Milarepa's disciple, Repa Shiwa, which means peaceful light, and one of Milarepa's close disciples. And then during the time of Terchen Barway Dorje, the first Bardo Rinpoche, he was the disciple of Trime Loden, who urged Terchen Barway Dorje to decode or decipher his Yamantaka terma. He said, you're an incarnation of Nupchen. You must have a Yamantaka terma somewhere. Why don't you decode it? And that created the karmic basis for his to actually do it. So Trime Loden was then born at the time of the second Barway Dorje as Karmatupten. Lama's grandfather. And when he was given this account by the previous Siddhi Rinpoche of his previous lives, the second Bardo Rinpoche said, well, let's not put you on a throne or enthrone you formally. Just stay here with me, and you'll be able to do more good for the teachings of our tradition, of the Barway Dorje tradition, than I myself will. And sure enough, it was Karma Thupten who preserved all of these lineages and the texts during and after the Cultural Revolution, and was able to transmit all of this down to the present day. So there is evidence of that nature, not only that Terchen Barway Dorje was the rebirth of Milarepa and therefore Bardo Rinpoche, but also that the people around him, the people close to him, are emanations of Milarepa's close associates and disciples.
True. That's right.
Let's see what time it is.
What?
Oh, it's exactly 4. That's a good place to stop.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay, now we will dedicate. It's not like a Tibetan, it's like a Western, exactly. Today I did good job. Okay. Sonam deye damje zegba ni tomne nibe danam banze jega namje bala roba siben zolen rowa rowa yo gewan de jewo ga sona yige zozo Sona yige le zawe tamba genye do ba yo zanjo zemne rambo je ma je bana ji je je ba nyamba me ba da gone gondo be wa yo zemje damje de dan den jar je ngendo damje da da tomba Sanjo Zamba Ganda Sarjo Ba Deda Ganja Mol Rabar Yo Zanje Rejen Zunzen Dambe Ga Jargan Duya Dunda Lembai
Zamje
Mizo Ndebe Sanga Ju Sige Zonda Jabe Traji
Thank you
very much, Lama. Correct. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, it's okay. I will help you. Thank you very much. Okay.
I'm gonna text you some questions.
Oh yeah, sure, no problem. Okay, yeah, okay. You will do it, and I do my best. Okay. Yes. Oh, you are welcome.
Nice to see you.
Very good. Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Oh, for God.
There must be.
Okay, you're a monkey, I'm monkey. Monkey is a friend, okay? Monkey friend is good.
You know, we all have monkey. It's not just you.
No, we are monkey.
Excuse me.
Thank you. No problem. Yeah. Some's a monkey, some's a monkey, some's a gorilla, right? Some monkey, some gorilla. Some monkey, some gorilla. What? Oh.
Thank you.
What is this?
Chimpu.
Chimp.
Sami chimpu.
Wow, you been chimp. You got blessings. Yeah, I been too. That's okay. Oh my God.
These are he subdued the local spirits, preventing the construction of Samya. When he subdued them, he turned them into Dharma protectors, and when they were converted, they rained from the sky.
The comments.
These, and so you each have a Dharma
Thank you.
protector.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And these are from Circle,
Oh, Serpa Monastery.
yeah, Green Tara.
Okay. Thank you, thank you. Wow, Serpa Monastery, Green Tara, and Samye Chimpers. Samye Chimpers subdued and subdued Dharmapala, and local deity of Dharmapala. Some so Tanta.
Lade, Jovo Kapsa, Sama, Soma, the K Lempa Kapsa, Name Paparis.
Non Papari City. Nampana, the order, Conquer architect, Casa, Samye Chimpers, Tomato, Poga, Pogamati, Lela, and the days of suburb. Pogamati days and Dharma in the layout. Nibuka, Ejan Jambo, he like a Poma. Pogamati, Darko. Okay, everyone. Thank you. See you. And so.